I'm Steve Snyder. I'm an attorney as well. Don't hold that against me. I am the chair of the American Bar Association Assisted Reproductive Technology Committee, so I work with an organization that has attorneys as members all over the United States, so I'm familiar with the laws from coast to coast. The most important thing that a client from Europe must understand is that your goal is not just to have the birth of a live baby. Your goal is to have the birth of a live baby of which you are the legal parent and that your country recognizes as a citizen of your country when you return home. In order to accomplish that, you need to work with an attorney in your home country before you start the process, so you understand at the end of the process what you will need to do and what kind of documentation you will need to establish the parentage and citizenship of your child when you go home. So you cannot just look at surrogacy in the United States as a United States process. It's a process in your country and it's a process in the United States. So the most important piece of advice I will give to everyone in this room who ultimately goes to the U.S. to have a child through surrogacy is to consult with an immigration or an assisted reproduction lawyer in your home country before you start to make sure that what you expect at the end is what you actually end up with. That being said, there are 50 different states in the United States, and each one of them has a different set of laws. So you must also work with an attorney in the United States that understands the laws of the various states, because some of them are better for you than others. In some states, it is against the law to do surrogacy, just as it is in Italy. In some states, there are cases or statutes which expressly permit surrogacy, and those are desirable places to go. In many of the states, there is no law at all, so you need to understand what the process is that you will have to go through to become parents. And the process in each state has to match with what you need when you get home. In some countries, you must get a pre-birth parentage order in the United States to make it easy for you when you return home. There are only certain states that allow that. In other states, you want to avoid an adoption because that makes it problematic when you return home. So you want to avoid those states. So in addition to the counsel in your home country, you want an attorney in the United States that can advise you that you can get the proper documentation. When it comes to same-sex parentage, not every state will give you a birth certificate with two men's names on it. So you must also ask that question. In fact, I think there may be as few as 6 or 7 states that will actually put two men on a birth certificate. It's not going to do you any good to go to the United States and have a baby and find out you can't get your other partner's name on the birth certificate. Of course, you may have to come home and do that process in your home country, depending on what country you live in. Therefore, make sure that when you work with an attorney, you are asking these questions and you have someone that can give you that good advice. Ron has given me as a topic ways to minimize contested surrogacy cases. In the United States, surrogacy is a very reliable process. But when each one of you starts it, your first question will be, what if she changes her mind and wants to keep the baby? What do I do then? The reality is that anecdotally, meaning by stories told by people, as of 2002, which is a decade ago, but as of that time, through 13,000 to 15,000 surrogacies, there were only 87 that had any conflict. That's less than 0.5%. Out of those 87, only 25 were surrogates that threatened to keep the child. The rest were parents that didn't want the child because it was handicapped, or they got divorced, or they lost their job and could not afford it. So the reality is that the likelihood that your surrogate will change her mind if she's properly screened, as John said, and if you go through a proper legal process, as I encourage, is so small that you should not lose any sleep over it. It is just not likely to happen if you do the process correctly with the right professionals. Another topic that I want to talk about is whether you want a pre-birth order or a post-birth order. And what I'm talking about there is that in some states like California and Massachusetts, you can get a court to order you to become the parent before the child is born, so that you know that as soon as the child is born, you will be the legal parent. That sounds very good. In some states, you have to get a post-birth order, meaning you have to wait until the baby is born, and then you do the legal work after, and the court issues the order making you the parents after your child is born. That sounds bad. Let me pose this issue for you. John was talking about insurance coverage. In most cases, when I advise international couples, one of the biggest economic risks you have is the potential medical cost to care for your child after the child is born in the hospital. You live in countries where there's nationalized health care. We don't have that in the United States yet. We're a medieval country. So that means that you must have private insurance, which you will not have, to cover the cost of care for children in the hospital. So how do you cover the cost of that care if you have twins that are born 6 weeks early and have a bill of $150,000? Do you pay it out of pocket? That's not a good idea. So, if you get a pre-birth order, which sounds really good, at the moment of birth, the surrogate is no longer the mother of that child. She has no legal relationship to the child, and there is no basis in any circumstance where you could argue that her insurance could add that child as her dependent. So, if you get a post-birth order after the child is released from the hospital, because the surrogate is still the legal mother at birth until you go to court, in some cases, with the right insurance, that child is an eligible dependent of that surrogate and can be covered under her insurance. So when you talk to people in Europe that say you want to go to the US and get a pre-birth order, maybe, maybe not. You need to have legal representatives that can advise you in your particular circumstances with the insurance you have available to you, which is better. So the legal aspects of surrogacy can all be navigated successfully, but you need to have advisors in both countries to make sure the process goes appropriately. And I wish you all the best of luck, and I hope everybody that's in this room eventually has the children that they want.